Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Are you okay?
Shazim.
Okay. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thanks for having me back. I thought I'd start off with a scenario that I would like everybody to think about in their minds. And that is if everyone could imagine being on a beach. Imagine being on a beach where you don't have to worry about anything. You're at the sea and you've been given a job to do. The only job where you don't actually have to work, really. And that is the only job you've been given is to tell people if a tsunami is about to hit the beach. Now, you've been told it's coming, but you don't know when. One day, you see in the distance the water starting to turn, and you've seen this before. You know the tsunami is brewing. What do you do? Now, I'll go back to that in just a moment. We have to look at the Quran. The Quran is just reminders. It has this theme where it just keeps reminding us to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We were actually born to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because we stay in the dunya, we forget that we have to worship Allah. We forget we have to praise Allah. So Allah, throughout the centuries, has sent messengers, prophets, and that's what they do. When they come, these little reminders to go back to worshiping Allah. So that's what we have to actually have to do now. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was on the earth, when did he start to actually do dawah? When did he start to preach? He didn't start at 25. He started at 40. Why so late? One might ask. You have to realize the time. Mecca being a big city full of gangsters. Imagine gangsters, people that wouldn't think twice of killing you for nothing. But they knew Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They knew that he was a man of honesty and he was trustworthy. These qualities, went a long way. Because if something happened, who did they turn to? They turned to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They didn't turn to anyone else because they knew whatever the answer was, that was going to be the truth. And this is a form of dawah for us today, because we work in the dunya. We work with people that aren't Muslim. We interact with people that aren't Muslim. So the first thing that they see is us. What type of Muslims are we? Are we showing these same sort of traits that are we trustworthy? Are we honest? When Muslims interact with non-Muslims and they cheat them or they do something bad, it's a reflection of the whole ummah. It's not just a reflection of one individual. And this is some of the things that we must try to bear in mind when we are speaking to non-Muslims, because we're actually involved in dawah. Even if we're not speaking, we're involved in dawah. So everything we do, we have to do with good, not with bad. No, it doesn't matter who we deal with, and it doesn't matter if they're Muslim or they're non-Muslim. You have to have the same level, the same standards, honest, trustworthy. We have to be exactly the same. Now, one thing, after the first 40 years of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life, after he started his dawah, he did it for many, many years. And one thing is, he never actually got very far. I mean, there were a few people that accepted Islam and change their whole lives based upon the message that he told them. He kept on questioning himself, is he doing enough? You know, these people, he knows what's coming. He knows that if they don't go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, that if they die, they'll be in the hellfire. He knows it. He knows that their punishment is going to be severe if they don't, and they won't have an opportunity after they die. So he kept on questioning himself, was he doing enough? And we may feel the same way nowadays when we are doing dawah. You know, we're speaking to non-Muslims, or we're speaking even to Muslims that are non-practicing Muslims, and it's like they don't seem to understand or to grasp the message, and it affects us because we think to ourselves, have we done enough? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And this is when I like to bring in a verse from the Quran. Just wondering if someone can help me with that, with the reading of the ayah.
Let's read the meaning.
Well, I'll read the English. Surah Al-Ghashiyah. Now, the meaning of the ayah at verse 21 and verse 22, Allah was speaking about Muhammad. He said, so remind, O Muhammad, you are a reminder. You are not them a controller. So basically, the meaning of this ayah was saying, listen, you're just there to remind them. You're just there to give them the message. That's all you're there for. You don't control them. You know, it's like going back to what I was saying earlier about that scenario about the wave coming in. Most people will, especially if they've never seen a tsunami before, and they've never been a victim of tsunami, they're not going to want to leave the beach. They aren't. So we cannot force people to get up and to leave. And it's the same way when you're making dawah, you can't force people to accept Islam. And I think one of the biggest problems with this is that people, when they are doing dawah, the big mistake is that, you know, we try to win arguments or win debates. The problem with this way of thinking is that you're creating a problem. You're creating a wall. You know, if you've ever debated with someone, you're not listening to their side. You're finding ways of how to beat them. And if they say something that you can't answer at that moment, you go back and you try to think of ways at home the next day or the next couple of days. Oh, what could I have said for that answer? You know, you're not thinking of the answer itself. So this leads us back to the word of dawah. What does dawah mean? It's an invitation. You are inviting people to come to Allah. So if you invite someone to your house, do you try to fight with them? Do you try to beat them up the minute they come in your house? Or do you sit them down and you offer them a cup of tea? This is what we should be doing with dawah. Small, very, very sort of soft approach. We're not looking to win an argument. We're not looking to win a debate. I mean, I was watching leading up to this talk, I was watching a Numan Al-Qab, and you know, this is some of the things that he was talking about. He said that there are people that don't play sports. All they do is they sit watching debates and becoming very good at debating. You see them now. If you go to these people and you try to debate, they're very good at debating, and they can debate. They can debate with you very well and put up what they think is strong arguments, but they're not looking to learn about Islam. And these type of people you won't get anywhere with. Now the Prophet ﷺ, when he was on this earth, his dawah was very soft. He had a very soft approach to dawah. You know, You'd only give them bits and pieces here and there, and he carried on. No matter how many times people said no and they weren't interested, and they got angry and they wanted to kill him. But that didn't matter. He carried on and he carried on and he carried on. And this is the sort of spirit that we should have when we're doing dawah, is we should just keep going. You know, if they turn around and they say they don't want it, that's fine. But you try again in a different way, softly approach. You're not looking for an argument or a debate. Obviously, that's not what we're here to look for. Now, one of the other things that he noticed when he was out doing his preaching was that people turned around and called him crazy. They said, "Oh, who's this person? He's obviously crazy." Or because he's coming with this message, he's got an ulterior motive. Maybe he wants to be a politician, or maybe he wants to be the ruler, the president, or whatever it is. But obviously, these were false. These were just people trying to point fingers at him. But he started to think maybe he was going crazy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then had to actually remind him that he wasn't crazy. In fact, let's see if I can find the actual ayat that he mentioned, which I can't seem to actually see here. But in, I think it was in, it's Surah Al-Qalam. He said, by the pen and what they inscribe, you are not, O Muhammad, by favor of your Lord, a madman, crazy. You're not crazy. So at the beginning of that ayat, he's saying he's not crazy. By the end of the ayat, he mentions it again, but at that point, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he realizes that he's not crazy. These people are the ones that are putting their back to Allah. They're not putting their back onto him. So he doesn't take it personally anymore. And I think that's one of the issues when we're going out and doing our dawah. Sometimes we get this, we feel personal. If someone insults us, especially young people, they tend to have this, they are very fierce. So if someone said something hurtful about Islam, they want to fight. Someone draws a cartoon, then they go crazy, and this is not Islam. We must sit back. One of the verses in the Quran actually states in Surah Fasilat 34, it says, "And are equal are the good deed and the bad deed. Repel the evil by the deed which is better, and thereupon the one whom you and him is enmity will become as though it was a devoted friend." So basically what it's saying that, if someone says something harsh and bad and inside you feel you want to probably hurt the person for doing or saying something like this, the best way is to show them the good of Islam. Remember, this is an invitation. So if we rise to that, then they'll say, "Oh, look at the Muslims. Look what people these are." But if we take a step back and show them a good deed, show them Islam. So yes, you've said this, yes, you've offended me, but I'm not going to let this upset me. Then inshallah, you will soften their hearts and they'll be more inclined to listen to the message afterwards. Now, the thing is, with us as well, in this ummah, we seem to have two main groups of people. We've got the group that has the knowledge, and then we got the group that is that shows action. They do things. So because we are the middle people, Islam is the middle people, we have to find the middle ground. So we have to incorporate knowledge with action. These two groups work together. We have to be one group, knowledge and action. That's how you do dawah. You go out, you speak to people, you speak with knowledge, but with action as well. You show them the goodness, the honesty, the trustworthiness, but at the same time, you show them the beauty of the religion, and that's what they would attract them to Islam. Now, whose responsibility is it to start to speak to Muslims and to non-Muslims? It's everyone's responsibility. That's one thing. When the Prophet ﷺ, when he left this earth, before he left it, the finger was pointed back to us. And when we end our lives, it will be like a court case. And we'll be asked, what did you do? What did you do? If there's, I don't know, Bob, Jim, whoever that interacted with you during your life, and you never did any dawah with them, these are the people that are going to be pointing fingers directly back at you and say, you didn't tell me about Islam. Allah, he never told me. But if we go and tell and actively preach this message, we are going to be pointing the fingers at them and saying, but I was the one that brought the message. I was the one that told Bob or Jim about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was me. I told him. So my conscience is clean. So this is something very, very important. We can't not do it. It's our responsibility. We each share a responsibility of doing this work. So we can't hide from that responsibility. Now, obviously, because we are witnesses against humanity to show what Islam is, what to be a Muslim is. That's our responsibility, and that's what we have to do. Our job is to do dawah. Otherwise, that will be a complaint against us on Judgment Day. Now, obviously, we've discussed all the issues. One thing I would like to show everybody is a diagram. Now, the reason why I've drawn it as circles is to illustrate a point. That in this middle circle are the practicing Muslims. The Muslims that they pray 5 times a day, they do their zakat, they fast during Ramadan, they do everything what they're supposed to be doing. The strong ones, the ones with knowledge. The next circle would be the brothers that have fallen away from Islam. So yes, they still accept Shahada, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. They still accept this fact. But what they have stopped doing is some of them have stopped praying. Some of them have started to drink alcohol. They're doing things that are haram. And then, of course, the last circle would be the non-Muslims, the ones that aren't practicing. Now, the thing is, our job, when we talk about dawah, is not just for the non-Muslims, the outside, this blue circle. It's also for the ones that are not practicing. You hear stories of this all the time when, brothers that are non-practicing, they come into the masjid, they do something silly because they're not practicing. And then there is a brother that's very strong and has a lot of, I wouldn't say the word secure, but he's got a very strong iman. And he goes up to these people and he says to them, leave the masjid and come back when you can pray, or come back when you can stop drinking alcohol, come back when you're not drunk. Yet these people come when they are in their most embarrassed moments. They come to us, they come to the masjid because they want to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what happens is that the people in the masjid are pushing them away and saying, go away, go away. These are the very people that we should be bringing back to the masjid. Because yes, they are doing bad things. They are committing haram. But if they keep coming here, they keep praying, inshallah, all these bad things that they're doing currently will fall away. And one day, they won't be part of the green circle. They'll be the good, strong Muslims in the middle. And that's what should be our goal. It's not just to focus on non-Muslims, but to focus on Muslims. Now, one of the things that I came across was in researching this is that families now are suffering. Now, when you talk about dawah in the family, you think, oh well, maybe it's probably a child or something like that, and you show them how to perform salat, and you show them how to do this or to do that. But here in the Western world, and I don't know how true this is of Malaysia, because most of you we're all from Malaysia, but when a person starts to show that they are inclined to be more spiritual, starting to follow the sunnah, they're starting to pray, they're starting to grow a beard, or with the sisters to wear the hijab. The minute what happens is the other members of the family, the father or the uncle, they turn around and say, what are you doing? You're an extremist. You're an extremist, and it's like that. And then the family fall out because the person who's become very spiritual goes back to what I was saying earlier about this confrontation when someone says something that's bad and hurtful. But it's even worse when it's someone that's so close to you, when it's a member of your own family. But we should be applying the same rules as we apply to non-Muslims, as what we apply to Muslims. So again, what are you doing when an evil, Sophia, something evil happens, or someone says something that's hurtful? You combat that with not saying something equally evil or equally bad, but you combat that by showing something good to that person and saying, okay, yes, you've said this bad thing, but I'm going to show you what Islam is all about. Islam is not just me growing a beard or for a sister wearing a hijab. That's not Islam. These are aspects of Islam, but this is not Islam. So, if it's like a father, do things that for them that they don't expect. Cut the grass when they don't ask you to cut the grass, or take out the rubbish when they don't ask you to do something. You have to show them that you are following the religion of Allah and the religion of the Prophet ﷺ. And this means that you're going to be good. You're going to be a good person. Yeah. Because the problem, what people, I think, fail to understand is that when it comes to preaching, our primary goal is to preach to our family. You know that, because they're the closest ones. Some people might say, but this person, he's a member of my family, but if he wasn't a member of my family, I would not even look at him. Maybe that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you as part of that family, is so that you could be the one to bring this one closer to Allah. Maybe that's our test. The thing is, we walk a very, very hard, we walk on like thin ice when it comes to our family. The thing is, if we don't show them the good, if we don't try and have this good relationship, even though that they may put up these walls and these barriers, the problem is that we face going to hellfire for not showing them that kindness. And so this is the easiest way to go to hellfire, is not to obviously put a barrier between you and your family. Now there is an ayah that I would like to mention at this point. Surah Al-Tara. Surah Al-Tara. And in Surah Tarim, it talks about, "Oh, you who have believed, protect yourself, your families from hell, from a fire whose fuel is people and stones, and who are appointed angels, harsh and severe. They do not disobey Allah and what He commands them, but do what they are commanded." Now, the reason why I mention this particular ayah at this point is that imagine your brother who you've fallen out with. It may have been a mortgage that you both have taken out, or a car, and you have a disagreement. You don't want to speak to him. Right? That happens. But I can tell you right now that if something happened to your brother, if you got a phone call, "Oh, your brother was just in a car accident," or "Your brother almost died, he had a heart attack and he's in hospital," who's the first one that goes up to see how he is? It'll be you. Now imagine if our family do not make it into Jannah, but make it into hellfire. We will actually hear their pain. Did I end too quickly?
Okay, thank you very much for the challenge. Our chairman is actually on leave today, so
Oh,
yeah. So but now we're going to open for dialogue session, Q&A session, where all can ask questions or give opinions of the talk that Brother Sheldon have already gave us today. I open up if anybody would like to ask questions.
Yes, I can. Yes.
hey Sophia. You don't think that was a legitimate question? I mean, what I could do is mention, because one thing I didn't discuss is that in Christianity, one of the things that they talk about, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about planting seeds. You know, when you plant seeds, you grow something. Preaching is the same. And I found a fantastic verse in the Quran. It's Al-Fath, verses 29, that says, as a seed that puts forth its shoots and strengthens it, and it grows and stout and rises straight upon its stalk. So that's what we should be doing. We should be planting these seeds. We're not making them grow. We're just planting them. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will make them grow. Inshallah.
Anything?
Alaikum salam.
My name is Suri. You should tell us about how you changed your faith, your previous faith to Islam. I think a bit about your
Well, how I changed my faith from Christianity to Islam. Well, I did the whole talk last time, but it's fine. I'll just reiterate a lot of the stuff that we were talking about the last time. It was a long journey. It wasn't just something that happened overnight. And as I said, brothers make mistakes. I found when I came to the masjid the first time, people wanting to make me take shahada, and I wasn't ready at that point. But that's what they like. When you see someone that's non-Muslim and then they're in the masjid.
Who bring you to the masjid? Who bring you to the mosque?
Oh, well, it was friends of mine actually brought me to the mosque. See, what led up to that point was that up until that point, I wasn't actually interested in studying Islam. In fact, it was quite the opposite. When I was talking about in my talk that there are people that are, that are good at arguing and debating and things like that, I was very good. I was, no doubt, I was really good at arguing. But from a Christian point of view, most people that are good at arguing now seem to be from atheists that they don't even believe in God. They just want that conflict. But in my case, one of my friends said to me, well, why don't you study Islam? And they will study Christianity. I said, okay, fine. I will study Islam. But I never actually studied Islam. Funny. And then they pointed that out. They actually went to the actual church, my church, and started studying Christianity. But I never did. I never actually went near Islam. They said, oh, but they study Christianity. They don't see that as being the right path. They still believe they're on the right path. They said, why don't I study Islam? So I said, okay, fine. I'll make that step. And I went with some brothers. I came into the masjid here. And as I said, the first day, it was just like, become Muslim. And I said, look, I'm not here to become Muslim. I'm just here to learn. And that's what I did for the first few weeks. I just studied. I had lots of questions, and in some ways I also try to debate as well. But that's what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's what he did. He gave these wee reminders, these soft approach, and he carried on. there were times when he did debate, but it was only like towards the end, you know, after a long time of giving reminders. And as I said, I was debating at certain points of certain things that I wanted to get answers for, and alhamdulillah, those answers came. Does that answer the question fully, or yeah? Yeah. I think sometimes you guys ask me like 3 questions in 1 question, and it's like I get confused.
Fire, 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 fire.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question and understanding that people who embrace Islam, if you compare it to people who was born as a Muslim, those embrace Islam will have much more better spiritual effect to those who born as Muslim. I take as an example, as a child, I was not a very, I say, obedient child. It's quite the devil actually. I always skip about 5 days prior, barely reading the Quran. But so little by little, watching my family, my parents pray, reading the Quran, reading the Yasin on Fridays night, got me thinking, what actually they are doing? Because my parents, the way they taught me about Islam, that they don't force me to do such things. Because their understanding is, if I force him something that he might not like it, for example. So then what they did is just supply me with some books how to perform the salat, and I just read it. Yeah, as it first, little by little, yeah, just follow my mom. Memorizing the Fatihahs and the book and all the surahs and that's whatnot. But I do get went to the same school, same love and that's whatnot. But the way they embrace Islam is much more different than mine. Alhamdulillah, because of their guidance, I pray I'm already here, but I can say something to my brother. So for the past 2 years, he worked, got a better salary, a better job. And me, my family tried to say that's what we call a blessing from Allah. Blessing you with all those health, wealth. All my brother said is Alhamdulillah. So what my father said, do your prayers, your subuh, zuhur, fajr, zuhur, isha, maghrib, to show your thanks to Allah. But that's not okay. I don't know. I'm not the type to be suspicious or whatnot. So I'm trying to ask you, is there any way that I can persuade my brother so that he can perform the salat? Maybe not instantly, but periodically. Let's say just start by one, then one more than one.
Well, so that's like the story about your family. I think it's very difficult when it comes to family members. I mean, I did touch it on that in my talk, and especially if they are against Islam, it can be very difficult. I would never brand someone, especially that I don't know, that they're against. They're probably just not practicing. I mean, these people, they're not that far away from Islam. They're absolutely not. You know, they may be doing their own thing and enjoying life. In the back of their minds, they probably are thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think our job is to give them these reminders. I mean, all the prophets, as I was saying in my talk, all the prophets, when they came, they were giving us little reminders. We should be doing with our family. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to, you know, the term in Christianity is they say Bible basher, or maybe as a Muslim you say Quranic basher. You don't have to be that. You know, that's not gonna achieve anything. What you might want to do is to show them that you're following, you know, the Sunnah. Show them the difference it's made in your life. And perhaps, even I would say, try to be as friendly as you can with them. So you're not pulling out a Quran and saying, oh, you know what, you're not doing what it says here that you should be doing. You're not doing that. You're saying, well, look, this is my brother. I have to be close to my brother. Even play sports with your brother, or take him out for dinner, whatever. You know, that's what I would do, and then show him that, you know, it's Isha time. Oh, I better get up, better do my salat. You know, show him that you're still being very, very pious. You're a pious Muslim, but you are his brother, and you're always going to be close to him. That's all you can do, inshallah. And then whatever seeds you plant, you know, Allah is the one that's going to direct your brother, not me or anyone else. Inshallah.
Let's try.
I think one of the other problems with dawah is you see these type of leaflets in the masjids where they show dawah leaflets, and the first thing that a person asks, they ask a question, a non-Muslim comes up to him. So then you get all excited. Instead of just a dream, you pull out a book and say, oh, look at this lovely colors of this leaflet. And it's very scientific, but that's not what the non-Muslim is looking for. He's only looking for an answer for that one question. And I think sometimes, because I remember the first time that I came to this masjid, I looked with about 50 different leaflets about Islam. And I think that's a mistake that brothers think, that because if you got the leaflets, look, alhamdulillah, we've got leaflets, which is good. But unless the person's looking for a specific answer that's located in that specific leaflet, we shouldn't be giving them extra bits, too much extra. In Christianity, we used to have this term, kiss, which means keep it short and simple, or keep it short and sweet. So you don't have to, tell them everything in the Quran on like the first two occasions. You know, just see what they want. Give them what they want, small bits. That's it, and then leave it on. That's all you need to do.
Sheldon, in your experience as a Muslim, I think you got maybe some discussion with Christians and people of other beliefs, especially Christians. What are the questions that they usually ask to you about Islam? And what are, you think, most difficult or the hardest question that you need to answer about Islam when you discuss or having conversation with them about Islam?
Well, it's very difficult, when you are speaking to Christians. The sort of questions that they have tends not to be of actual queries about the faith, but they tend to be misconceptions about the faith. I mean, what do I mean by misconceptions? I'm talking about like the sisters wearing hijabs. I'll give you an example, right? Some of my Christian friends. When I married my wife, I don't know if I've given this example probably the last time, but when I got married to her, they asked me, well, why do you make your wife wear a hijab? And these are people that have known me before I was a Muslim. They saw the changes that I'd made. So, I mean, I was confused with the question, but I tried to answer it and say, look, I've not chosen my wife's attire. I don't tell her what to put on when we leave the house. That's just something that she decides, because she wants to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She puts on the hijab. I don't make her do anything. Then they would say, oh, but surely her dad must have forced her to do this. And it's like that. Well, why would her dad force her to do anything? He's actually in Cambodia at the moment, you know, giving out zakat money to poor people. So, you know, someone who's on the other side of the earth has no control over what she does in this country. So again, you have to listen to what they're asking you, because they don't come up with I would say questions that are based, that are easy to answer from the Quran. These are more misconceptions, and then it's difficult to answer misconceptions. What you can do is you can point to the Quran again. By the way, the Quran is a wonderful book, because it's not just intellectually sound, it's a spiritual book. It's both. You know, so that's the thing. And, you know, that's what I always did. With the Quran, where it spoke about the woman must cover her head. You know, the verse that I'm speaking about. Before that ayat, just before that, it spoke to the men. And we were told to lower our gaze. So we were told first to lower our gaze. So that misconception that somehow Islam is oppressive to women is totally false. It's a falsehood. But they base that they belief on the media bias, the government as well. I think the government plays a part to it. I'm not talking with politics for your country, more of the Western country or the Western world, because non-Muslims tend to be more from the West. So they get this total misconception about Islam. They look at countries like South Muslim country, but who ban women drivers, or have conferences, women conference, but without the women. Can you believe it? Without women? And we have to try to defend the faith and say to look, well, actually, that's not what Islam says. This is what Islam says. So I always try to turn back to the Quran for the answers. Because, I mean, a scholar can get up, an ustaz can get up and speak for hours on a small ayat. And he can tell you all what this ayat means and that. Yet that same ayat, you know, a farmer can read it and he can cry, and it could make him emotional, because that's what it is. It's both intellectually sound and spiritually sound. And if you turn back to the Quran when you get these type of questions, it's easier to answer. Did I cover everything, or did I miss it? Because I know you asked like 3 or 4 questions there. But that's normally the way I do it. And you know, unfortunately, through recent events, people associate terrorist groups in various Middle Eastern countries with Islam. We must try our best to disassociate ourselves with those groups. Bear in mind, some of these groups, I'm not going to, because there's a famous group, and I'm not going to say it on camera, but there's a famous group just now that's cutting people's heads off. And they look at that and then they say, this is Islam. This is what Islam is. You know. So you have to go back and say, no, wait a minute. Islam is, if we talk about extremism in Islam, we're talking about very good, very honest, very trustworthy. This is our extremism, because this is what we are as Muslims. We're not whatever that is. That is not Islam. When someone does something that's contrary to Islam, they are not a Muslim. And there's a hadith that speaks about this. Unfortunately, I can't think of the actual hadith. But at that moment, you're not a Muslim when you're committing these offenses. So what does that mean? If the person dies doing something that's contrary to the Quran, you'll end up straight in the hellfire. He's not even a Muslim. He's not a Muslim, and he's got no rights. He will never get to Jannah, basically. And this is what people's misinterpretation of Islam is. You know, and this is what we have to keep saying. Look, don't look at those people. I've heard that those people do not even read the Quran. So if people do not follow the Quran, you know, how can they be Muslim?
Okay, any other questions? Come on. Got like something for us.
One,
Okay.
have you encounter a person who know a lot about Islam, but is Islam or not? But he know a lot of things, lot of Islam more than yourself, and he try to mix up your judgment. Something like one question like, how trust are you about Quran itself? Is something, it's just a word created by a person. Is it really like that?
Well, I mean, I must be honest, I've not actually spoken to anyone yet that's pushed me in a position where I have to reconsider my standing as a Muslim. I've not been in that situation, alhamdulillah, and inshallah, that I'm never in that position. The dua that I read earlier said that Allah is the turner of hearts, but that He also keep our hearts' faith in the religion. So far, alhamdulillah, my faith has been strong in the religion. People that do know a lot about Islam, because we mustn't assume that every non-Muslim that we speak to is ignorant. We can't assume that. Everybody has their own knowledge. Now, Allah has given each one individual. I mean, you might even meet someone that has got more knowledge to you about Islam than you do. That can happen. But the important thing is, what are they doing with that knowledge, for example, firstly, and secondly, how are they using that knowledge that they have? Are they trying to get you away from the religion based upon misconceptions about the religion? Because if you go back to the Quran, if you go back to the actual source, it's perfect. We keep saying that it's perfect, that if people challenged it and they went to it and tried to prove it wrong, that so many people, it is true that so many people have tried and failed to actually prove it wrong. I mean, what I would say is that the people that I have met, I met one Christian guy that knew a lot about Islam. But there were a couple of things that were misconceptions about Islam that was holding him back based upon what he thought that Islam was, oppression being one with women. And these are top of the questions that I had to deal with. So in those sort of cases, I find out what it is that is holding that person back. What is it? What is it that they disagree with? And I'm not a scholar. I'm not. Alhamdulillah, after accepting, Shahada, after I said Shahada, I did study a lot. I kind of slowed down after I got married and I had a child. It becomes more difficult. It's not an excuse. I'm just saying it is more difficult. But I find if a person asks me a question and I do not know the answer, and I think this is what anyone should do. Remember that we're not scholars, we do not know the answers of everything. In fact, we probably know a very small amount of answers compared to the amount of questions that people have. The best advice is to take that question and say, if you don't know the answer, just be honest and upfront. So look, I don't know the answer of that question. You raise a good point, I'll find out and I'll get back to you. That's the best way. Go see someone with knowledge, like a sheikh, and get the right answer, not from Sheikh Google.
Anybody else?
Niza. Assalamu alaikum.
Do you have any experience facing with people who not believe in God?
All the time.
So what is the your approach, I mean, how you convince them or how you make them some changes in their belief.
Well, they are the most difficult people to speak to. And it's quite funny, it's because they try to base their belief on something that is not true, which is the belief that there is no God. So this is what they base their faith on, is that there's no God. Now, if you do not believe in God, because we all have faith in something, and if you take that out of the equation, these people tend to replace that, I'm not saying in all cases, but in most cases, with the state. The state becomes their God, basically. So the government, whatever government it is, that becomes their God. So the easiest way to speak to any of these so-called people that do not believe in God is you go back to them and you say to them, you talk about science and you say that this is fact. Obviously, the theory of evolution in all the textbooks, and I'm talking about generally now, all the textbooks class it as a theory of evolution. They don't say the fact of evolution. Now, let's look at it from a scientific point of view, because if you're talking to a person who doesn't believe in God, there's no point in pulling out the Quran. I know that some people do pull out the Quran. That's not a Quran, by the way, but some people do pull out the Quran because they want to say, oh, look what the Quran says about the description of the world. You know that it's sphere shape, so that's not quite round. That's a rugby ball shape. That's closer to the actual shape than any other textbook was mentioned at that time. Except for the Bible said circular. It didn't say that sort of shape. So you could go down that route. But I always say, okay, let's go back. You say we came from monkeys. What came before monkeys? Then they would say, oh, whatever it is, from monkeys, lizards. Then you go back, amphibians. Okay, you go back, what happened before amphibians? And then it's like, oh, fish, aquatic creatures or whatever. Go back, these were all created by microorganisms. Okay, well, what created these microorganisms? And then it's like the Big Bang, and then they talk about this Big Bang theory. I say, okay, you say that's fine. What made the Big Bang theory? Then they talk about these cosmic forces that started it all. And you say, but what started that even? What started it all? And then you get to a point whereby if you keep going far enough, they can't answer you. Their answers, literally, they say nothing. So what my question is then, what scientific fact proves that something can come from nothing? Because that's what you're telling me, that something can come from nothing. Where is it? Where has that ever been proven? And the answer is, it hasn't. The other argument is that they like to use is, I was talking about fish that turn and these sort of aquatic creatures, and then they become amphibians. And you ask them, okay, well, because then they would say that this one fish evolved into another species of fish. So you say to them, well, okay, it evolved into this species of fish. Has it evolved into a different type of fish? Something totally different, a different species? And they say, no, it's still a fish. And it doesn't matter what it is what creature you point to, and you ask them, okay, if they say that they've got proof that this evolved into another creature, so what other creature is it? You find it's the same type of creature. So that there's no observable there's no observable proof that any of these, that somehow we came from, as I say, a monkey or a fish. There's no, that's not observable, because science is something observable. We know that there's gravity because we can observe gravity. The stuff that they're talking about cannot be observed and cannot be proven scientifically. And the moment you start breaking down these arguments, they look incredibly foolish. But not only do they look foolish, they tend to get very angry because they don't know the answers to these questions. And I've seen professors, right, that believe in this atheism, and they have the same sort of reaction, is that then they get very angry with the person because they can't prove their argument. And that's how come you know someone's lost an argument, is when they start wanting to fight with you and get angry and get upset. Honestly, and that's why, going back to what we're talking about with dawah, is we should never get angry with any question that is posed to us, no matter how insulting it is. You know, show them that we are the better people. And because if we give them that lies, we go to that point where they are, then they will point a finger to us. So we let them get angry, and we let them obviously look foolish. Inshallah.
Anybody else want to ask questions?
What do you think of da'wah by akhlaq? By akhlaq.
Akhlaq, as in
living our own daily behavior.
Akhlaq. Forgive me, as my knowledge isn't as good as it should be, as I said to you before, because of my own laziness, or allowing myself to be caught up in the dunya as well. Yeah, you know, in our lives, it's very difficult to do dawah. But as I said at the start, I mean, you look at the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because we always look to him for guidance. Imagine, up until his 40th birth, well, 40, up until 40, age 40, that's when he started his preaching work, 40. But in fact, he was actually preaching before that. I mean, officially, it was 40. But unofficially, it was his whole life. And in our lives, the thing is, I mean, I touched on this in the talk. I mean, how many times have we heard about a Muslim that has cheated a non-Muslim? I mean, that's common. That's common practice in this country. You know, they look at us as cheats, as liars. Why? Why do they look at us like that? It's because of individuals that do these things to the non-Muslims, and then the non-Muslim gets this impression. So going back to your question, you know, if we are good, if we are honest in what we do, I mean, we can't affect some other Muslim that's doing these. We give them a little bit of dawah, try to help them back on their path. But for ourselves, if we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, that's a form of dawah. So in your job, if you show that you're honest, right? Your boss sees, that Muslim, he's honest. You know, I can trust him. That's dawah. That's dawah. Then they start thinking, what is this religion all about? Look at the way the Ummah acts. If the Ummah acts like, as I say, like the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, people will be coming to us. But if we start acting like the rest of the dunya, they're not going to be coming towards us. And I think that's the main thing. The second thing, I mean, I can only speak for myself in my own work. I try to show them the way I live, that I've stopped doing a whole bunch of things that I used to do that were haram. Because I used to be a Christian, I didn't see alcohol as a problem. I didn't see eating pork as a problem. There were other things as well, but you know what, I put all that aside and I changed overnight, and I was a completely different person. But what I do is come to Ramadan. How many hours is it here? 20? 20 hours? I show them that I can fast for 20 hours without food, without water. You know, alhamdulillah, in this country. And they are so surprised, they are shocked. They said, how can you not have water, even water, for 20 hours? Surely you must die. Well, I said, no, I'm still here, alhamdulillah. You know? And that's something that they're then attracted to. Then they come and they ask you questions. They want to know about the faith. And that's when you start doing your dawah. When people are coming up and asking you questions, you get in with dawah. Now, I mean, I do it that way, but there are other ways that you can do dawah as well. You can have a conversation and put in just something small in the conversation. Various ways of doing dawah. But you have to start with being good, honest first. That's the key, and then all the other stuff, inshallah, will fall into place.
Any more last question? No more question. Excellent. So, alhamdulillah, thank you very much, Brother Sheldon, for giving us the talk today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Maybe next time we can call you together with your wife, so that you can get some sort of forum with you.
Well, inshallah, I will put it towards her, but I think I think she prefers to do it with the sisters because that's more of an Islamic way. Unless there would be a way that you could like split it in such a way that she was separate, then I'm sure she'll be happy.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that next time, inshallah. By the way, I got two announcements from Brother Hanif. The first one is very much related to the talk that given by Brother Sheldon today, which is tomorrow there will be an event called Dawah Proactive Training. Dawah Proactive Training at Caledonian University from 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So if you want the details, you can ask Brother Hanif after this. So it's good. Now we already understand the importance of dawah. So tomorrow there will be a training on dawah itself. So it's good if you get spend some time the event. The second one is call for volunteers for Islamic Discovery Week next week on Monday. So again, if anybody got time to spend for this event, please contact Brother Hanif for more information. Thank you very much.
There's also an event on Sunday. You heard about Jisoo Charlie. There's Jisoo Muslim, and that's going to be on Sunday. I mean, if you want, I can send you the details, inshallah, and to let you know about that event if anyone else wants to go to it. But it's just in response to that cartoon that was.
All right. Okay. So thank you.
And how we should respond to it, basically.
Yes. So thank you very much for everybody for coming to this event. You know, Allah will give us halal for whatever things that you learn today, and so that we can also practice the information and the knowledge that we got from Brother Sheldon. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.